This past week, Lucy and I have had the, and I'll say the word privilege, to babysit two young boys, two grandsons. 1 5, 1 3. They could not be more different. And the 5-year-old is a very sensitive boy. He's very careful about what he does. We took him swimming, and if he got water in his eyes, he'd rub it and wanted it out. You got to see him eat a bagel with peanut butter. He holds it very carefully, takes a bite, puts it down, gets the napkin, wipes his fingers off, chews for about an hour, picks it up again, bites it, wipes his fingers off, chews it for another hour. His younger brother, totally opposite. He's like a bull in a china shop. He has no care in the world, and he knows exactly how to get to his brother. Because, he's very careful about his toys. His older brother doesn't want anybody touching them, and so over he comes, and he'll grab it away, and he starts to scream and holler, "He's taken my toy!" And it just goes on and on. And there was a couple of times where I took them, and I pick them up, and I set them down and say, "You stay there," and I take the other one right across, "You stay there," and when I come back, I want to find you there. 5 minutes later, they're back fighting and screaming. So I sat down with the older one. Well, we were at Tim's, and they were eating their food, and all of a sudden the older one started, and I looked over and I said, "What's wrong?" "He's going to touch my bagel. He's going to touch my bagel. Hasn't touched it yet. He's going to." And I said, "Look at him. His arm is not even long enough to get there. Well, he's going to do it." So I said to him one day, I said, "Do you like your brother?" "Nope." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, he wakes me up at night." And I knew that was just the first thing that came into his head, so I started to try to be logical with him. And I said, "You're the older brother, and he's the younger one, and he doesn't understand the things that you do. And so, as an older brother, you have to teach him and help him." Well, that wasn't going to happen. I said, "Because he looks up to you, really, and he wants to be around you. And the reason he takes your toys is he wants to play with you." "Well, I don't want him touching my toys." Anyway, we didn't really work it out. I left for work one day, and I said to Lucy, "Do 2 things for me. 1, don't kill them, and if you think you're going to, call me." I know that they're going to be fine, I hope that they're going to grow up and love each other. I'm sure that they will, and I'm sure the younger one will protect the older one, because if he doesn't, the older one's going to be in trouble. It's our human nature to be that way. And I want to say that before I get into this parable, we have to be careful that we don't grow up with those feelings. Because as we grow up and become mature, we need to start to integrate those things. And we need to start to let things go. And we need to know that we can't always have what we want. And that's part of growing up. In our today's story, we have 2 brothers who weren't able to do that. My 2 grandsons could be these 2 boys in this parable. They were so different, the boys in this parable. One saw life through the lens of obeying moral laws, working hard, doing everything that his father said, probably one of the best workers he ever had. The younger brother, totally different. He was a man of the world. For him, he saw life through the lens of, "I will do what I want, I will have what I want, and the heck with my dad, the heck with the farm, the heck with my older brother, he's crazy to work that hard. I'm going out into the world." That's the lens by which they looked at the world. They were totally different, and they could not come together, even as adults. And that's what we have to watch. That's what we have to watch. Once they were gone, I'm laughing to myself, but I'm thinking, my God, it's exhausting. But we don't want to grow up like that. We don't want to grow up like that. And these 2 boys in the story that Jesus told were. Now, I have to tell you that the story of the prodigal, we call it the prodigal son, it was the 3rd in a trilogy of parables that Jesus told, because he was being criticized for consorting with tax collectors and sinners and prostitutes. And the people were disgraced by that. They were shocked. They were offended. And so he said, "Well, I'm going to tell you some stories." And he told the story of the lost coin, that the woman searched for and found, the lost sheep that the shepherd went out for and found, and then he concluded it with the lost son. And it's interesting, these stories were told because what Jesus wanted to get across to them is there should be rejoicing and celebration when someone is found. And it's interesting, we take the negative. We call it the lost sheep, the lost coin, the lost son, when really it should be the found sheep, the found coin, and the found son. That was the point of the parable. We're supposed to celebrate and rejoice when somebody who is lost is found. So why would he tell, and when he told this story, the people, not just the religious people, all of the people would have been shocked and offended. No one would have disgraced their father the way the boy did in that story, by asking him for his inheritance before his father even died. And then running off and losing it all, and when he comes back, well, like the kids today said, he should be punished. Or at least he should have something that he needs to do to make it equal. And what does the father do? He calls to the servants, bring a robe, bring a ring, bring him new shoes, and kill the fatted calf. We're going to celebrate. Why? Because my son was lost, he's now been found, he was dead, and he's now come alive. Now, the tension in the story is that we don't really get a conclusion, do we? I remember when I preached on this before, it would be delightful if the story ended with the party. Jesus, don't you want to just say to him, why do you do this? He has an older boy out in the fields, being responsible, doing everything that is expected of him, and he comes and he hears all of the things that are going on, all the celebration. I'm not going in. How dare you? That brother, well, he didn't even call him a brother. He said, that son of yours, that son of yours, not my brother, that son of yours has gone off and wasted all that money, and for that he gets this? Not fair. And so the father, boy, would we be like the father? He says, look, son, you're with me always. All that I have is yours. We have to celebrate because your brother, not just my son, your brother was lost and is found and was dead and is now come alive. Why are we so offended? And you're lying to me if you say you're not offended. It's not fair. It is not fair. If we live our lives responsibly, follow the rules, and someone else doesn't, they shouldn't get the goodies, should they? Really. And that's our problem. And this is the reason why Jesus told the story. He wanted to shock, he wanted to offend, but he wanted to explain to him the power of God's grace and love. And for us, it is somehow cheapened by giving the son a party, because it sort of defeats the seriousness of the crime. It's okay to have him back, but put him out in the fields. Don't give him a party, don't give him a ring, don't give him a robe. That's the way we think. Because you see, we look at life as winners and losers. You see, if there's a winner, there has to be a loser. If there's, you see, we have rich and poor, we have sinners and saints. And in the time of Jesus, we had Gentiles and Jews. You had one or the other. And Jesus is saying it's not and or, it's both and. And that's what God's grace is about. And so what he was trying to say was, the love that the father had for the younger brother does not negate the love that he had for the older brother. And the love that Jesus showed the sinners and tax collectors and prostitutes does not negate the love that he has for the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And we have to kind of get that into our heads. And the only way to do that is to grow up, and I'm pointing to the children that are out here. I love children because they're so honest. My grandson said, I don't like them. I don't like them, and I probably never will. Well, you will. You don't understand that right now. But we don't grow up if we hold those things in here. You've got to let them go. You've got to come to terms. I've talked to more adults who are struggling with things about their parents or their brothers and sisters, things that have happened to them that they can never forgive, and they hold on to it. And as Dr. Phil would say, how's that working for you? How's that working for you? Well, all it's giving you is pain and isolation, and you can't enjoy the party. And part of life is celebration. And as hard as it is, as hard as it is for us to celebrate the fact that whoever we think is irresponsible or undeserving deserves the love and grace of God as we think we do. As we think we do. I love the stories that Jesus told because, number one, they're stories, so it's safe to jump into them. But then we, it shouldn't happen that way. Why couldn't the older brother come and have the party with them and they kiss and make up? Well, they don't in the story because that's us. We are the older brother, we're the younger brother, and God wish we could be the father in that story because he set a wonderful example for his sons. And they didn't grow up and integrate those things in their lives. Our hope and prayer is that our children and my grandsons will grow up and integrate those things in their life and realize that we're not all perfect and that we all make mistakes and that we still love each other. And I said to him, but you will still love your brother. He's looking at me like, I'm not sure I will. So I think the challenge today, we know this story, don't we? There's anybody here that hasn't heard that wonderful story about the prodigal. What I would really wish for you to do today is to go home and think about reconciliation and forgiveness. And think of, is there people in your life that you haven't reconciled with or forgiven? And if you can think of somebody, do something about it now. Do something about it now. Take the first step. Go to them and say, this is crazy. This is crazy. We know each other. We love each other. Let's put this aside. Life's too short. I say that all the time to people. Life is too short. And I think one of the biggest challenges we have in life, I said at 8:30 that of all the stories that Jesus told, this is the best one. It is the best one. Because it shocks and offends. And it's hard to believe that God's grace and love can offend us. But sometimes it does. And there are times when we think that there are certain people that don't deserve to come to this church. People who are in prison deserve to be there. They're getting what they deserve. And probably one of the first things Jesus would do if he came back, he'd go to the prisons and open the doors. Unbelievable. We wouldn't be able to stand it. They'll just go back and do it again. Well, folks, that's life. And I believe that's God's purpose for us.